History remembers the winners. It celebrates billion-dollar companies, visionary founders, and world-changing innovations. But what history often forgets are the moments when everything almost came crashing down. This is the story of the secret deal that saved Tesla. Today, Tesla is one of the most valuable companies on the planet. Millions of electric cars drive its vision forward, and Elon Musk has become one of the most recognizable entrepreneurs in history. Looking at Tesla today, survival almost feels inevitable. But rewind the clock to 2008 and you'll find a completely different story. A story where Tesla wasn't a global powerhouse. It was a tiny startup running out of money, surrounded by doubt, and only days away from disappearing forever. By December 2008, the numbers painted a brutal picture. Tesla had enough cash to survive for barely 2 more weeks. Payroll was approaching. Suppliers needed to be paid. Every sunrise brought the company one step closer to bankruptcy. Investors had stopped believing. The media questioned whether electric cars could ever become profitable. Industry experts dismissed Tesla as another ambitious startup destined to fail. To almost everyone watching, the ending had already been written. Elon Musk had already earned millions from the sale of PayPal, but instead of protecting his fortune, he poured nearly everything back into his companies. On paper, he looked wealthy. In reality, he was running out of cash faster than anyone imagined. And Tesla wasn't his only problem. At the same time, SpaceX had suffered repeated launch failures. Both companies were burning money, both depended on Musk's personal finances, and both were standing on the edge of collapse. As if that wasn't enough, the world itself was in crisis. The 2008 financial crash had shaken global markets. Banks were collapsing, credit had frozen. Investors weren't looking for risky startups. They were simply trying to survive. And just when every path seemed to lead toward failure, an unexpected opportunity appeared. Not from Silicon Valley, not from Wall Street, but from a company almost no one expected. To understand how Tesla survived, we first need to understand just how close it came to disappearing forever. Just a few years earlier, Elon Musk had become one of Silicon Valley's newest success stories. When PayPal was acquired by eBay in 2002, Musk walked away with more than $180 million before taxes. For most people, that kind of money would mean retirement. But Musk had no interest in slowing down. Instead, he made a decision that almost everyone considered reckless. He poured nearly all of his fortune into 2 companies that were bleeding cash. Tesla wasn't profitable. Every prototype cost money, every engineer cost money, every delay pushed the company closer to collapse. Millions of dollars disappeared every month, and there was no guarantee that a single dollar would ever come back. Meanwhile, the pressure wasn't limited to Tesla. SpaceX had already suffered 3 consecutive launch failures. Rockets exploded, missions failed, critics declared the company finished. Investors were losing confidence, and the media openly questioned whether Musk was simply chasing impossible dreams. Both Tesla and SpaceX depended on one person. Elon Musk wasn't just the CEO. He was the largest investor, the public face of both companies, and often the last person willing to keep writing checks. If he failed, both companies could disappear together. Musk would later describe 2008 as the worst year of his life. While his businesses were collapsing, his personal life was falling apart as well. A difficult divorce, relentless financial pressure, and constant public criticism created a level of stress that very few entrepreneurs ever experience. By the end of the year, Tesla's bank account had shrunk to roughly $9 million. For a manufacturing company building an entirely new kind of automobile, that wasn't a safety net. It was a countdown timer. And then, something changed. Thousands of miles away, inside one of the oldest and most respected automotive companies in the world, engineers had begun paying attention. Daimler, the company behind Mercedes-Benz, wanted to talk. Daimler wasn't looking to buy Tesla. They weren't planning a merger. What caught their attention was something far more valuable. Tesla's battery technology and engineering speed had solved problems that even established automakers were still struggling to overcome. There was just one problem. Daimler wanted proof. They wanted to see Tesla's technology working inside a real production vehicle. But Tesla didn't have one. The company had impressive ideas, yet almost nothing it could confidently demonstrate. If Tesla wanted Daimler's investment, it had only one option: build a working electric prototype faster than anyone thought possible. The solution would send a small team of engineers on an extraordinary journey, one that would begin just across the border in Tijuana, Mexico. Daimler's engineers weren't interested in promises. They wanted evidence. If Tesla expected a partnership with one of the world's oldest automakers, it had to demonstrate that its technology worked in a real vehicle. There was only one problem: Tesla didn't have the right car. The Roadster proved Tesla could build a sports car, but Daimler wanted something completely different: a compact electric city car. Designing one from scratch would normally take years. Tesla didn't have years. It barely had weeks. Then someone inside Tesla proposed a bold solution. Instead of building an entirely new vehicle, why not buy an existing one and completely reinvent it? It was unconventional. It was risky. But at that point, conventional thinking wasn't going to save the company. The plan sounded almost unbelievable. A team would cross the border carrying $20,000 in cash. Their mission wasn't to negotiate a billion-dollar contract. It was simply to buy a small smart car that could become Tesla's next prototype. Their destination was Tijuana, Mexico. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't part of some carefully planned corporate strategy. It was simply the fastest place they could find the vehicle they needed. Every hour mattered, and every delay pushed Tesla closer to running out of money. The purchase itself was only the beginning. Once the smart car arrived back in California, the real challenge began. Everything inside the vehicle had to change. The engine would come out. Batteries, electronics, and an entirely new drivetrain would take its place. The deadline was almost impossible. Tesla had just 6 weeks to transform an ordinary gasoline-powered city car into a fully functioning electric prototype. For most manufacturers, 6 weeks wouldn't even be enough time to approve the paperwork. Engineers practically lived inside the workshop. Days blurred into nights, sleep became optional, coffee replaced rest. Every member of the team understood that they weren't just building a prototype. They were building one final chance to keep Tesla alive. Failure didn't mean starting over. Failure meant bankruptcy. It meant thousands of hours of work disappearing overnight. It meant the dream of building a successful electric car company could end before it had truly begun. The pressure inside Tesla had never been greater. As the prototype came together, another deadline was approaching. Christmas Eve, 2008. While most of the world prepared to celebrate the holidays, Elon Musk was preparing for something far more important, a final attempt to save Tesla from extinction. The 24th of December, 2008. While families across America were gathering for Christmas dinner, the future of Tesla rested on a handful of phone calls, bank transfers, and signatures. Inside the company, nobody was celebrating. Everyone was waiting. As the evening approached, the pressure became unbearable. Deadlines were expiring. Investors were making final decisions. If the funding didn't arrive before the markets closed for the holidays, Tesla might never reopen after Christmas. Elon Musk made one final gamble. He invested nearly everything he still had. Friends urged him to protect what remained of his fortune, but Musk wasn't trying to save his bank account. He was trying to save the company. Nobody inside Tesla knew what would happen next. Employees continued working, but uncertainty filled every room. Some quietly updated their resumes. Others simply kept building, hoping that somewhere, somehow, another chance would appear. And then, the phone rang. What followed would become one of the most important business agreements in modern automotive history, a deal that very few people saw coming, and even fewer understood at the time. Daimler agreed to invest $50 million in Tesla. In return, it would receive a minority ownership stake in the young company. On paper, it looked like a modest strategic investment. In reality, it was a lifeline. The agreement gave Daimler approximately 9% of Tesla. More importantly, it gave Tesla something that money alone could never buy: credibility. If Mercedes-Benz believed in Tesla, perhaps the rest of the world should too. News of the partnership spread quickly throughout the automotive industry. Journalists who had dismissed Tesla began paying attention. Investors who had ignored the company started asking new questions. For the first time, Tesla wasn't just surviving, it was becoming impossible to overlook. The $50 million kept Tesla alive. But the real value of the deal wasn't measured in dollars, it was measured in trust. A company with more than a century of automotive experience had publicly placed its confidence in a startup that many believed would never succeed. But one question still remained: why would one of the world's most respected car manufacturers take such an enormous risk on a struggling startup? The answer had very little to do with money, and everything to do with technology. To understand Daimler's decision, you have to forget what Tesla looked like in 2009 and focus on what it had built. While most automakers were still experimenting with electric vehicles, Tesla had already solved one of the industry's biggest challenges: battery technology. It wasn't perfect, but it was years ahead of what many believed possible. Traditional car companies moved slowly. Decisions passed through layers of management, committees, and corporate processes. Tesla was different. Engineers weren't waiting for permission. They were solving problems in real time. That speed became one of the company's greatest competitive advantages. Tesla didn't think like Detroit, it thought like Silicon Valley. Instead of asking, "How have we always done this?" the team asked, "What's the fastest way to make it work?" That mindset impressed Daimler far more than polished presentations ever could. Daimler wasn't investing in Tesla because of what it was, it was investing because of what it could become. Behind the financial losses and unfinished products, Mercedes saw something that many others missed: a glimpse of the future of transportation. The investment didn't instantly make Tesla successful, but it gave the company something far more valuable than cash. It gave Tesla time, and sometimes, time is the most valuable investment of all. With fresh capital and renewed confidence, Tesla could finally focus on the future instead of simply surviving. That future became the Model S, a car that would completely change how the world viewed electric vehicles. It wasn't just another EV, it proved that electric cars could be fast, beautiful, and desirable. In 2010, Tesla achieved something few thought possible. The company went public on the Nasdaq, becoming the first American car manufacturer to launch an initial public offering since Ford in 1956. Investors who once doubted its survival were now buying into its future. Confidence spread beyond Wall Street. Toyota announced its own partnership with Tesla, investing in the company and collaborating on electric vehicle technology. What had once looked like an impossible dream was now attracting some of the biggest names in the automotive world. But this story doesn't end with victory. Every great business success creates another story, the story of those who walked away too soon. Over the following years, Daimler gradually sold its stake in Tesla. At the time, it appeared to be a reasonable business decision. The investment had generated a healthy profit, and few imagined just how valuable Tesla would eventually become. That original $50 million investment had already paid off many times over. By almost any business standard, it was a successful deal. But history wasn't finished writing the final chapter. As Tesla's value exploded over the next decade, analysts looked back at Daimler's decision with disbelief. Had the company held on to its shares, that relatively small investment could have been worth hundreds of billions of dollars. One of the greatest missed opportunities in corporate history. Hindsight always makes business decisions look simple. In reality, Daimler made the best decision it could with the information available at the time. That's what makes this story so fascinating. Sometimes, the biggest opportunities only become obvious years after they're gone. Tesla's survival wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't inevitable. It depended on a handful of bold decisions made under extraordinary pressure. Innovation mattered. Engineering mattered. But belief mattered just as much. Someone had to take the first step before everyone else could see the destination. A struggling startup, a desperate founder, an unexpected partner, and a $50 million investment that quietly reshaped the future of the automotive industry. The next time you see a Tesla on the road, remember this: there was a moment when none of it was guaranteed. Sometimes, history changes not because of the biggest company, but because of the one that refused to give up. Thanks for watching. If you love business, innovation, and the stories behind billion-dollar companies, subscribe and join us for the next documentary.